Yes, ladies and gentlemen, now we will be listening to a keynote address on B20 joint recommendations towards stronger global recovery by the chair of B20 Indonesia, Ms. Sinta Kamdani.
His Excellency Presiden Joko Widodo, the chair of also G20 Indonesia. His Excellency Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia. His Excellency Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Esteemed world leaders, business colleagues, and distinguished guests, I salute you all and I thank you for making this possible. I would like to express our immense gratitude to everyone for making the B20 a success. Today, I think back to when our president called on the B20 to collaborate with the G20 to contribute to global economic recovery. I feel privileged to say that together as the B20, we have made recommendation to the G20 which will drive this forward. That is the legacy of B20 Indonesia. Throughout our mandate, we have remained committed to giving businesses a platform for dialogue and supporting G20 governments. Let's look back to where we were in 2020, the great lockdown. Before the pandemic, we thought we knew what challenges we would face, but we didn't see the pandemic coming. No one did. In 2021, we entered a new chapter, the Great Reboot. There was a clear shift from managing the crisis to planning how to emerge from it. Businesses started to innovate to harness new opportunity. We took over the B20 presidency during the time of crisis. Today, we are moving into a new chapter, the Great Rebound. We faced many challenges during our presidency, but now we have an opportunity for a new economic era based on cooperation. It is in that spirit that I'm proud to share with you today the B20 Indonesia Communique, which includes our joint recommendation for G20 leaders. First, we are focusing on innovation to unlock post-crisis growth. This includes opening up digital opportunities across the economy, expanding cooperation for better cybercrime responses, and increasing funds for green infrastructure through innovative financing mechanisms, which accelerate the energy transition. Second, we are pushing for accelerated digital transformation. B20 Indonesia is turbocharging the empowerment of MSME and vulnerable groups by focusing on capability, entrepreneurship, job creation, and the empowerment of women-led MSME. We envision an uplift for workers in the informal economy, included in rural communities. And lastly, to realize a more equitable healthcare architecture, we are bolstering collaboration between developed and developing countries, particularly as we continue to fight to mitigate future global crises by creating guidelines on health emergency preparedness. This year, B20 was incredibly diverse, with 6 task forces and 1 Action Council member from more than 15 industries across G20 countries. Together, we have reached consensus. I would highlight, we have reached consensus with 25 policy recommendations and 68 policy action. Yes, action, not just recommendations. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning. It is where we go from here that matters. Beyond policy recommendation, we need to have real impact. We need to set ourselves up for the great rebound. In the spirit of our continued commitment beyond our presidency, B20 Indonesia has created 4 legacy programs. These are inspired by our most pressing priorities: green transition, inclusive growth, and equitable healthcare. Mr. President, you will meet with the G20 leaders tomorrow and I hope you can advance these priorities to the G20 as a joint vision between government and businesses to achieve collaborative, sustainable, and inclusive growth. Once again, thank you, Mr. President, for your stewardship in this challenging time. You have led many examples and have shown the true spirit of collaboration, inspiring us to develop more innovative ideas and more partnership to jointly drive stronger global recovery. To my chairman, Mr. Arshad Rashid, and the whole Kadin committee, all the task forces, Action Council, knowledge partner, network partner, and sponsor, thank you for all your hard work. It has been an honor to chair the B20 this year. We have come a long way. We have come a long way for a great rebound. And may we now work together and push the button to go forward and give and pass to India for a better together business and government for collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Sinta. Ladies and gentlemen, moving forward to our next remarks, it is my pleasure to call upon the Chairman of Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin Indonesia, host of B20 Indonesia, to deliver his remarks, B20 Presidency 2022, Indonesia's leadership in advancing global priorities. To Mr. Arshad Rashid, the stage is yours.
His Excellency Bapak Joko Widodo, the President of the Republic of Indonesia. His Excellency Mr. Anthony Albanese, Prime Minister of Australia. His Excellency and all honorable state leaders and distinguished guests. It is a great honor for me as the host of the B20 Indonesia to address you at this historic occasion. This is the first time that B20 and G20 Summit has been held on Indonesian soil. It is also the first in-person summit since the pandemic. Coming on the heels of the world's emergence from a global pandemic, the Indonesian G20 presidency is timely. This year's G20 presidency takes place against the backdrop of intensified geopolitical polarization, as well as concerns that globalization has failed to affect equitable gain. In my view, Indonesia is uniquely qualified to understand such concern. Our equatorial country, which is literally situated between the global north and south, is a country of contrast. As the only ASEAN country that is permanent member of the G20, Indonesia is able to advocate for both developed and developing economy on the global stage. At the same time, Indonesia has a long tradition of advocating for different voices at the table. Just imagine, on one hand, we are a major global commodities producers. On the other hand, more than 95% of jobs are created by micro, small, and medium enterprises. And while Indonesia is the fastest growing digital economy in Southeast Asia, it is also home to 100 million unbanked people. On top of that, we are a diverse, multi-faith country with more than 17,000 islands. So, the question, how do we bridge our differences and drive consensus? I'll be honest, it hasn't always been easy. But two fundamental Indonesian values that have enabled us to bridge these differences and forge ahead are gotong royong, meaning the spirit of mutual inclusive collaboration to achieve a collective good, and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, a commitment to achieve unity in diversity. These two concepts have enabled Indonesia to maintain stability and improve prosperity over the last 20 years. We have tried to bring this sense of unity and collaborative action to this year's B20 proceeding. And with this year's, with the support of everyone involved, I do believe we have succeeded. Following the directive of His Excellency, Presiden Joko Widodo, we established three major priorities for this year's B20 Summit in line with G20 priorities that reflects issues of concern to both emerging markets and developed countries. These are the green economy, the empowerment of MSME and women, and the strengthening of global healthcare resilience. These three elements are key to ensuring collective, sustainable, and inclusive growth for all countries. In particular, I would like to highlight this the first time that MSME has been highlighted as a major B20 topic despite the major role that small businesses play all over the world. With regard to the green economy, B20 Indonesia has already begun to take concrete actions. Within Indonesia, we are actively driving the green transition through various pathways, including industrial decarbonization and facilitating green investment. A carbon center of excellence has been established in the hopes of accelerating global collaboration on net zero initiative. We have also established the first net zero hub in Indonesia to drive and facilitate the private sector's commitment to net zero. The second priority is to promote inclusive growth by empowering MSME and women. To this end, we have established the One Global Women Empowerment Initiative, which aims to facilitate the inclusion of women in the global economy through training, support, guidance, funding, and more. This initiative will be hosted by the International Organization of Employers, which will act as a bridge between successive G20 and B20 presidencies. We have also set in motion a number of MSME initiatives, including a platform that facilitates Indonesian MSMEs to participate in the complex supply chains. Given that MSME account for 60% of Indonesia GDP, this is expected to unlock substantial growth, and we hope that these programs can be replicated elsewhere. The third priority is to create an equitable global healthcare system. B20 Indonesia has mounted the Global One Shot campaign, a campaign that aims to bring together government, industry, and global health organizations for the purpose of creating a permanent worldwide vaccination programs. This will help decrease vaccine inequality between the global south and the global north, and help close gaps in health infrastructures across population and region worldwide. As part of increasing healthcare resilience in Indonesia, we also have helped facilitate local manufacturing capabilities for vaccine, strengthening Indonesian pandemic preparedness and response capabilities. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, before I end my remarks, I would like to reemphasize the inclusive development framework I have introduced yesterday. The 5 Ps: peace, prosperity, people, planet, and partnership. As we are passed the baton to India, this framework will remain relevant in advancing global priorities and generating impact beyond G20 countries. In closing, I would like to thank you once again for the chance to report on B20 Indonesia's efforts, and I would like to express my heartiest thanks to all those who have participated in the B20 process throughout the year. Gotong Royong and Bhinneka Tunggal Ika have made this year's B20 Summit a success. And looking ahead, we offer our utmost support to India for next year's summit. Also, we'd like to thank you. Together is a partnership between me and Sinta and everyone at Kadin and all the stakeholders of Indonesia and also the participants of the B20. We, the B20 Indonesia, stands with the G20 to advance innovative, inclusive, and collaborative growth. Let's recover together. Let's recover stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arshad. Ladies and gentlemen, to continue with our session, please allow me to present a video on the B20 market achievements and highlights of our proceedings and commitments.
The G20 economies account for 75% of global trade and 80% of the world's GDP. The Business 20, or the B20, is the business arm of the G20, mandated to cultivate private sector-led transformation to enable the G20 economies to recover together and recover stronger. Together, the B20 Indonesia's Task Forces and Action Council convened a diverse group of business leaders to deliver tangible and comprehensive policy recommendations and B20 communique, providing concrete outcomes and shaping the policy recommendations to enable businesses globally. The B20 Indonesia is also committed to drive 3 key movements that will recourse global trajectory for the better. These are green transition, inclusive growth, and equitable healthcare. It is the decade for the G20 countries to drive green transition, as we account for almost half of the world's share of natural-based solutions. The B20 Indonesia advocates companies to accelerate green transition towards net zero emission target and equip stakeholders with the necessary knowledge to benefit from carbon market. To embody the spirit of Gotong Royong and capture the huge upside of inclusive growth, the B20 Indonesia pushes for next-generation mid-sized companies to be part of the global supply chain and builds necessary infrastructure to promote the impactful inclusion of women in the global economy. Finally, to prepare for future health crises, the B20 Indonesia urges the need for equitable healthcare to bolster health system resilience. This journey has shown how collaboration and spirit to innovate can drive change. Through commitments and programs that we have built together, let's continue to realize an innovative, inclusive, and collaborative growth for all.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda will be the speech by the G20 leader with the main theme of building a strong and resilient economic recovery strategy of all. Please welcome the Prime Minister of Australia, His Excellency, Mr. Anthony Albanese.
Good evening, everyone. Salamat sore. I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you in Bali, and I particularly want to acknowledge my friend, President Widodo. It is great to be back in Indonesia and to congratulate President Widodo and his team for hosting what will be a very successful G20 meeting following what has been a successful hosting of the B20 here today. I do want to thank the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Kadin, including its chairperson and host of the B20, Pak Asad, and chair of the B20, Ibu Shinta, for bringing us together, and I thank you for your addresses here this evening. President Widodo has once again shown us enormously kind hospitality. This is my 7th official visit to Indonesia and my 2nd as Prime Minister. And the new government that I lead is determined to write a new chapter in Australia and Indonesia's long history of friendship and cooperation. I was reminded of that long history during my first visit here as Prime Minister, when I visited not just Jakarta, but also Makassar. Centuries ago, the sea route between Makassar and the top end of Australia was a flourishing trade corridor. Each December, the Yolngu people of Arnhem Land would look to the sea, waiting for the horizon to fill with the sails of Macassan vessels. The Yolngu immortalised those boats in their art, and you can find them painted on sandstone and bark, their sails forever full with the wind that brought them across the sea. The relationship between the Macassan seafarers and First Nations people of Australia was built around trade, but it was also built around mutual respect. It was a relationship of equals that set the template for the people-to-people contact that has always been at the very heart of Australia's relationship with the people of Indonesia. So much has changed since that era, but what has remained, and indeed thrived, is our mutual respect. Knowing this history gives us perspective, and it also reminds us that relationships between nations are always bigger and broader and deeper and richer than just leader-to-leader conversations, as vital as they are. That's why when I came to Indonesia in June, I was joined by a large delegation of government ministers and senior business leaders, the head of the Business Council of Australia, who's with us again this evening, the CEO of the Commonwealth Bank, and representatives of major companies such as Wesfarmers, Fortescue, BlueScope, Sun Cable and Thales. And I'm delighted that so many Australian business leaders are joining me here again today. Australian businesses are energised by the tremendous opportunities that this nation and this region hold. This B20 gathering, bringing together influential business leaders from around the world, draws on that same spirit, recognising that innovative, inclusive and collaborative growth won't be built and sustained by the actions of government alone. It will depend on the insights and enterprise and cooperation and investment of businesses and financial institutions and civil society and workers' representatives as well. So I welcome the B20's insights on the way forward, and I thank you for the care and effort that you have put into crafting your recommendations. And I embrace the goal that you have set. Innovative growth, because the challenges we face are different to previous economic downturns, and the policy response must be different too. Inclusive growth, because the quality of our response and the measure of our recovery must hold no one back and leave no one behind. And collaborative growth, because in a globalised economy, it is not just markets and products and technologies that we hold in common, it is challenges but also opportunities as well. Right now, we face a collective economic challenge new to the G20, indeed new to our generation. It was the global financial crisis and the seismic upheaval in the banking system which first elevated the G20 to a leader-level meeting. Leaders gathered in Washington in 2008 to unfreeze global credit markets and shore up the capital positions of financial institutions. And they came to London in 2009 to craft a global economic stimulus package. As Infrastructure Minister, I had the privilege of being part of the Australian delegation at that meeting. The financial crisis we faced then produced a global demand shock. The economic challenge that we face now is primarily a global supply shock. The long tail of the pandemic is constricting supply chains and stretching workforces. And Russia's invasion of Ukraine is inflicting severe, ongoing disruption to food, fuel and energy markets. Inflation is biting advanced economies around the world, and central banks are responding with the sharpest and most synchronised tightening of monetary policy that we have seen in decades. For governments to see off the threat of inflation, to prevent runaway inflation from eroding national prosperity and devaluing people's wages, we must ensure fiscal policy is working in concert with monetary policy, not contradicting it. And macroeconomic policy coordination, along with cross-border collaboration between businesses such as those in this room, has an important part to play in that. I will always remember the sense of purpose and urgency with which world leaders in London worked to coordinate that $1 trillion global stimulus package, while at the same time laying down a shared commitment to free market principles, to the rule of law, to open trade and investment, to competitive markets and to effectively regulated financial systems. Knowing that these are essential to building stronger and more inclusive prosperity for all. Even then, in the heart of the storm, there was still a focus on the horizon. Put simply, the G20 was made for moments like these and built for these challenges, founded on the unifying principle of multilateralism, that we can achieve far more together than we ever will alone. So yes, we can recover together and we can recover stronger. Indeed, recovering stronger depends on recovering together. We do this by ensuring that our tax systems reward people for their hard work and repay the initiative and enterprise of our businesses and job creators, by building the resilience and diversity of supply chains so we are better prepared for global shocks, and by helping developing countries to manage rising debt sustainably, risk by implementing measures such as the G20 Common Framework for Debt Treatment, and achieving the innovative and inclusive and collaborative growth that the B20 have challenged us to seek also means investing in the skills and productivity of our workforce and increasing participation opportunities, as well as unlocking the potential of people who have historically been locked out of career opportunities because of gender, race, disadvantage or disability. And of course, collaboration means strengthening our trade links, not just in the exchange of raw materials or finished products, but in the sharing of research and technology and education and expertise. Governments can help by breaking down tariff walls and building trade bridges. We can upgrade infrastructure, our ports and freight terminals, our energy pipelines and transmission technology to speed the exchange of goods and resources. But business also has a great deal to teach us about effective and informed cross-border collaboration and the value of competition and best practice productivity. And whether it's technology, skills, research, jobs, investment, infrastructure or trade, the challenge and the opportunity that can draw all of these threads together is responding to climate change. For governments and business, investing and developing clean energy will enhance our individual energy security, and it will strengthen our collective action on climate change. I am very proud that my government has acted quickly to drive the transformation to net zero, and I'm pleased that so many members of the Australian business community shared and support this commitment. We know Australia can be a renewable energy superpower, and we're working to grow our clean energy export industry. But we want to do it in cooperation with Indonesia and other nations to help reduce their emissions, to grow their economies and improve their living standards. Because just as none of us are immune from the global challenge of climate change, all of us have a part to play in the solution. And I know that President Widodo is very passionate about this. And I want to commend Indonesia's leadership in developing the G20 Bali Energy Transitions Roadmap. It sends such a powerful message to global markets, giving investors the confidence to scale up their ambitions, knowing that G20 members are committed to accelerating the transition to clean energy. That's what uncertain times demand. Not just the determination to weather the storm, but the ambition and the vision to sail beyond it. On that note, I'm delighted that our next G20 host, India, led by Prime Minister Modi, will be guided by its aspiration to ensure economic progress and the environment go hand in hand. And I am confident that India's 2023 G20 presidency will build successfully on the achievements of the Bali Summit. Bapak President, all of us here are eager to hear your reflections on India's host year and your ambitions for the future. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to our next ceremony, which is the B20 presidency handover to India. And to hand over the presidency, I would like to invite to come up on stage Ms. Sinta Kamdani, the chair of B20 Indonesia. And to receive this presidency handover, please come up on stage as well, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, representing the Confederation of Indian Industry as the next host of B20. Ms. Sinta Kamdani, please pass the B20 Indonesia communique to Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to our ceremony, which is the symbolic submission of the B20 Indonesia Presidency Report to the President, the B20 Communique. To pass over this document, I would like to invite to come up on stage Mr. Arshad Rashid, Chairman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin Indonesia, host of B20 Indonesia. And to receive it, I would like to invite the President of the Republic of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Joko Widodo. B20 Indonesia Presidency Report is the outcome of the B20 Indonesia Presidency, emphasizing the final B20 policy recommendations and legacy outcomes. Thank you very much, Bapak Presiden. Please stay on stage, as we'd like to listen to your keynote speech. And thank you, Mr. Rashid, Ms. Shinta.
Selamat sore. Yang saya hormati Perdana Menteri Australia Yang Mulia Anthony Albanese, yang saya hormati Ketua DPR Republik Indonesia, Bapak Ibu hadirin undangan yang berbahagia. Bulan Januari yang lalu, saya berbicara di depan B20 pada awal masa tugasnya. Masih pandemi berat saat itu. Saya menyampaikan bahwa di setiap kesulitan, bahwa di setiap tantangan pasti ada peluang. Jangan pesimis. Titipan saya saat itu saya ingat, jangan pesimis. Kemudian 10 bulan berselang, pandemi masih ada perang, ada krisis pangan, ada krisis energi, ada krisis keuangan. Tapi kita patut bersyukur Indonesia di kuartal kedua masih tumbuh 5,44%. Dan di kuartal ketiga kita tumbuh lebih kuat lagi di 5,72%. Inflasi juga bisa kita kelola di angka di September karena kenaikan harga BBM naik menjadi 5,9%. Tetapi di bulan Oktober inflasi kita sudah bisa turun lagi di angka 5,7%. Managing Director dari IMF menyampaikan, Kristalina menyampaikan, bahwa Indonesia menjadi salah satu titik terang di tengah kesuraman ekonomi dunia. Oleh sebab itu perlu strategi besar yang sudah sering saya sampaikan itu secara konsisten terus kita jalankan. Yang pertama, hilirisasi. Industrialisasi, bahan-bahan mentah yang kita miliki, memang harus kita stop untuk mendapatkan nilai tambah di dalam negeri, baik yang berkaitan dengan pendapatan, baik untuk negara, baik yang berkaitan dengan penciptaan lapangan kerja, dan sudah kita mulai dengan nikel dalam rangka membangun sebuah ekosistem besar EV baterai listrik untuk mobil listrik. Saya hanya menawarkan kepada Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, di Australia ada litium, kita punya nikel. Kalau digabung itu sudah jadi baterai mobil listrik. Tapi saya minta kepada Perdana Menteri Albanese untuk litiumnya bisa dibawa ke Indonesia saja. Kita bersama-sama melakukan hilirisasi di Indonesia. Yang kedua, yang berkaitan dengan ekonomi hijau. Sudah sering saya sampaikan bahwa potensi energi baru terbarukan, renewable energy di Indonesia itu sangat besar. Ada potensi 434.000 megawatt, baik dari hydropower, baik dari geothermal, baik dari solar panel, baik dari angin, baik dari tidal wave, semuanya ada. Inilah kesempatan para investor untuk menjalin kerjasama dengan Indonesia, membawa investasi, membawa teknologi, karena ini memerlukan uang yang tidak sedikit, untuk bersama-sama membangun ekonomi hijau di Indonesia. Dan kami telah menyiapkan di Kalimantan Utara 30.000 hektar lahan untuk Green Industrial Park yang nantinya saya yakin akan berbondong-bondong investor datang untuk membangun produk-produk hijau dari Indonesia. Karena di dekat kawasan itu ada Sungai Kayan yang bisa memproduksi energi bersih, energi hijau sebesar 13.000 megawatt, yaitu hydropower. Kemudian yang terakhir, yang berkaitan dengan digitalisasi. Saya titip yang besar agar membawa yang kecil. Yang besar mau membesarkan usaha-usaha kecil, usaha mikro, agar mereka tidak tertinggal. Kita sudah 3 tahun ini memasukkan usaha kecil, usaha mikro untuk masuk ke digital platform. Dan sudah sampai saat ini sudah ada 19 juta usaha kecil, usaha mikro yang sudah masuk ke platform-platform digital. Dari 64 juta UMKM yang kita miliki. Target kita nanti di 2024, kita harapkan sudah mencapai di atas 30 juta. Artinya yang kecil-kecil jangan ditinggal. Saya titip kepada India agar nantinya juga yang usaha-usaha kecil, usaha mikro ini juga masih dibawa lagi, diteruskan. Dan terakhir saya mengucapkan selamat bekerja bagi presidensi B20 India di tahun depan. Saya optimis B20 akan semakin solid dan terus berkembang. Terima kasih. Selamat sore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu yang terhormat, today we had a thoughtful discussions and intriguing insights from all of our respectable speakers. On behalf of the committee, we would like to thank all of our guests and speakers for attending this event. And now we would like to invite the President of the Republic of Indonesia and the Prime Minister of Australia to leave the venue. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.